War of the Knights. This is a philosophical historical form of a judicial process, in which two metals, namely Sol and Mars, through complaint, response, and proof, bring forth their natural qualities and properties to their God and Judge of nature. Ultimately, through a well-founded judgment, they are united in eternal, enduring friendship. Written over 200 years ago by the Honorable Johann Sternhals, then a Catholic priest of the Episcopal chapter of Bamberg. A true chemist and philosopher according to his own testimony. Now newly reviewed and brought to print. Hamburg, published by George Wolfe, bookseller at St. John's Church. 1680. In the name of our Redeemer and Savior Jesus Christ, Amen. Foreword. As the skillful master Aristotle wrote in his book Metaphysica that all people are by nature inclined and desirous to know art and hidden things, and the greater and more secret the arts are, the more they are desired by philosophical minds and, in part, discovered then knowledge the pursuit and possession of hidden things is the most heartfelt pleasure of this fleeting world, as Aristotle also confirms in the 10th book of Ethics. Many people, both of spiritual and worldly status, strive intensely in the lofty, hidden, and noble art of alchemy, believing they can find it solely through the writings of wise natural masters or by following the bare letters of these texts, and thus use it for their own benefit. However, for most seekers, it is impossible to find such knowledge due to a poor and common understanding of these writings, as they are filled solely with figurative and adorned and written with hidden words and examples, solely so that it would not be accessible to the greater, godless, and common crowd of the world, but only to their faithful disciples or to those to whom they revealed such high secrets verbally through special favor and willing inclination, allowing it to be understood and comprehended. And where the wise philosophers, in our understanding, have spoken most openly in these writings, there they have often hidden and concealed the lofty and noble art the most. Thus, one can clearly see and sense that many exceptional scholars are of exceptional understanding and subtle intellect, who take on this art and engage intensely in it, working with great expenses and wasting their possessions and wealth. Indeed, some even weaken and shorten their own bodily and life forces. Yet, they find the slightest benefit in it, nor can they expect to. However, if they were to read, consider, and learn to understand the writings of the philosophers carefully and diligently, they would not need to endure the mentioned hardships, for this noble art, with modest investment in humble materials, like a child from father and mother, and thus with the enduring and effective, hot and cold nature in one must be accomplished through our sulfur and mercurium. The art itself is not to blame, if the artists, due to their great misunderstanding, do not adequately comprehend their philosophical writings or are unable to work with them effectively. I, Johann Sternhals of Bamberg, an unworthy priest before God, have devoted myself intensely for over 20 years to this art of alchemy in 4 different ways, seeking, working, and researching many and wondrous things according to various philosophical writings, in which, however, the noble art might stand, yet I have not found a single find the true path and recognition, until the year of our Lord Christ, the beloved Lord and Savior, which was 1488, when the good and merciful God, out of his gentle grace, revealed to me certain works with founded truth regarding the aforementioned art, particularly from the true fountain of philosophical writings, which I, undeservedly, have been granted. Finally, I found a work through which, with his divine help, I dared to restore the damages and expenses I had endured with complete restitution. Therefore, I dedicate this little book, which I call Knightly War, to all loyal lovers of the art as a faithful warning and encouragement, written in German. In it, there is a true account of the transformation of silver into everlasting and permanent gold, which is easily understood by the wise, but concealed with hidden words against the unworthy and the ignorant. This is depicted through a conflict and strife between 2 opposing metals, namely Sol and Mars, before their sovereign, God and Judge Mercury, who, out of natural love and affect, is preferred and utilized by humanity. In this war, through the imitation of complaint and response and endless reconciliation, the artists of the aforementioned art, as well as others who use proper understanding, may inquire into all breaches of the true foundation, so that many useless and improper things, through which seekers of this art might otherwise presume to transform silver into gold, may be avoided, and their minds and thoughts may be put to good rest. Bowl means reminder of the printer to the esteemed reader. There is no doubt that, despite the diligent oversight in both the content and corrections, there will still be various errors present. However, may the esteemed and honest reader not attribute these to our carelessness, but and the incompleteness of the manuscript, which, according to its preface, was already written or conceived over 200 years ago, as well as its usual style and manner of expression in this publication, is sufficiently evident. Therefore, the esteemed reader is encouraged, according to their preference and high understanding, to correct such errors themselves, without complaint, allowing for their generous favor. Chapter 1. How Soul Complains Laments About Mars to the Poetically Depicted God Mercury, Desiring to Reject Mars. The God Mercury is in his proper and delightful garden, where the water is rising, rightly moistened, rising up, and in his most exquisite garment, the raw purple, with white underneath. 1. Then the praised noble appeared to him, dentem hardly lamenting. Then the god answers. 2. There appeared to him the most praised noble. He was adorned, clothed in his decorated hall, to behold the heavenly elements, which had been placed and laid in the highest window. There appeared for him the praised one soul, the Mars, who lamented heavily. Then God Mercury answered, Soul, why do you run so hastily to lament and diminish Mars, when there are so many learned scholars and wise men on earth who can assist you in your righteous claims against Mars?
Soul, he replied, I do this because you are very friendly to me, and because of my noble lineage among all those of good knowledge.
God Mercury said, Soul, if you wish to accuse Mars, let him come before you and hear your complaint against him. It is not appropriate to accuse someone behind their back. Unfortunately, this is the custom and practice of the evil world, and although you may wish to befriend me, it is not fitting for me to do you or male sign Mars any injustice, or to give favor to one of you over the other without both of your arguments being presented and ultimately recognized. To whichever side the law applies, the reward will belong to them, and the other shall bear the loss. Therefore, I will neither hear nor accept your complaint without the presence of your opponent. But if you first agree in me, then I shall act as a fair judge, and a good peacemaker will hear you thoroughly according to all necessary requirements and, after understanding the wisdom of your cases, will settle your disputes rightly. As much as you yourselves desire, he will make you eternally united with one another.
Then Soul spoke, My powerful ruler, you have spoken well and rightly. Therefore I consent and wholly entrust myself to you as my good friend and true judge, earnestly requesting that you, through your servant, may summon Mars and appoint a formal court day for him and me. Then I will reveal to you all my complaints and concerns that I have against him Mars regarding my distress, in which you will undoubtedly hear that I have reasonable, authorized, and well-founded cause to accuse and bring charges against him before you. I hope you will not grant him any favor for the wrong he has committed against me, but rather command him to desist from it. For that reason, I am prepared to bear my duty before you, and do what is right.
Thus, the Judge Mercury sent his servant, named Trogant, to Mars and made the terms and agreement Soul known to him, saying how he wished to hear, reconcile, and resolve the matter between them. Mars accepted Soul this summons and, as a sign of his willingness, obediently followed and agreed to accept him as the rightful judge.
Then Mars' servant Mercury answered, O Tragon, Tragon, what distress does Soul truly have that he must complain against me before the fair judge, when I have done him much good, as you well know? Yet, instead of gratitude for the benefits he has received, he now accuses me of disloyalty. And indeed, it is only fair to be grateful for kindness received. But so that my innocence may be seen, I will humbly submit myself to the good heart and judgment of the fair Judge Mercury, who is willing to hear and accept Soul complaint, which I do not deserve, and my response in turn. I am fully prepared and willing to obey him as a rightful judge. I shall gladly, in Soul presence, both receive and give what is right. And I am prepared to defend myself against Soul, for I, too, have a notable reply to give to him, which I, as a patient one, have kept silent about for a long time until now, as Soul has unjustly attacked me.
This response from Mars was relayed to the judge, and a rightful court date was set for both Sol and Mars to present their cases early on the next Mercury day, so that all aspects of the matter might be heard and finally resolved. Chapter 2, How Sol and Mars Appeared Obediently Before the God Mercury on the appointed day of Venus, where Sol vehemently accused, insulted, and belittled Mars, saying,
O high and deeply enlightened one, the illuminator of all dark, contrary, and comprehensible things, and our benevolent and just judge, who is always kind to the righteous and stern with the wicked. Since I, Sol, have previously sought your lofty and deeply grounded noble wisdom for rightful help and support against the insolent servant Mars, you have, in response, summoned us today, at this early hour, for a rightful hearing and judgment. Therefore, I stand here as the plaintiff against Mars and request permission to name an advocate to speak on my behalf.
Then the judge said, You may name anyone you deem to be helpful.
So Sol named his advocate, the wise man known as the High Eagle.
Mars then objected, saying he would not consent to such an advocate, nor allow Sol to speak or be supported by him. For the eagle was secretly allied with Sol and all of her friends, and in publicly too. The eagle had acted, borrowing and adopting certain things from Sol and conveying them to others.
In response, Sol argued that she was well aware of how the powerful advocate Tragon, the judge's servant, also known as Tragon, had secretly and privately aligned himself favorably with Mars, which Sol had partly observed, suspecting that Tragon intended to be Mars' advocate, and would likely offer Mars more support than her Sol.
Now, if Mars refused to accept Sol's chosen advocate, she would likewise refuse to accept Mars' advocate. Thus, they reached a standstill, with each party unwilling to allow the other's chosen representative. Then the judge spoke, Since neither of you is willing to accept the other's advocate, I shall appoint an advocate for each of you according to my own judgment, someone who can aid both of you well in this matter. Each party then replied that this would be agreeable to them. So the Judge Mercury appointed for Sol the lively and deep-thinking advocate Antimony, and for male sign Mars the highly esteemed and wise master Ruffulum or Russulum. Both parties were satisfied with this decision and bowed before the judge with great gratitude. Now, when each party had privately consulted with its advocate and both believed that their counsel and intentions would lead to reconciliation since, after hearing and revealing each side's issues, neither party could add or subtract anything, nor find fault in the other, they instead advised both sides to resolve their intentions amicably and encouraged them to abandon their intended accusations. However, both Sol and Mars again sought further assistance from their gracious lord and judge, requesting that he not allow or listen to the previously appointed advocates. Since the advocates had shown themselves to be partial and unfit for impartial judgment toward both sides, even acting in opposition and causing discord in the matter, and especially because they were now seated in the judge's council, the judge decided to dismiss their counsel. In the interest of friendship and for the benefit of the matter, he permitted each party to present their complaint, argument, and reply themselves, in the most appropriate manner suited to the case. The judge willingly granted this but reminded them to do so with discretion and conduct themselves in a respectful manner so as not to appear as reckless offenders and avoid punishment.
Sol's complaint against Mars. Then Sol began, with his proud words and audacious accusations, to denounce iron vehemently, accusing it. Each party, with the judge's permission, had a public notary present, as did the judge himself along with his chosen assessors. Most merciful, willing, natural and law-abiding judge, the great and mighty Father Mercury, with his assessors. I, Gold, the noblest of all metals, appear here in person, without any fear or trembling on this day, and lodge my complaint against the executioner's servant, carrier of gallows and thief, Iron, here before your profound and noble virtues, magnanimity and power. I accuse him of presumptuously, as a worthless wretch and intruder posing as an esteemed scholar and wise man, who in his entire life, has never read or understood a single letter, daring not only to boast but also to attempt every day, to administer supposed remedies in the visible and invisible nature, addressing the ailments and imperfections of the incomplete metals. However, he is, in truth, thoroughly flawed and defective, with no redeeming quality, neither in skin nor in hair, and he arrogantly assumes to provide great medical help, though it is impossible for him to do so. Furthermore, by birth and origin he, Iron, Neither deserves nor is entitled to such a role. This belongs only to God and no one else. Nevertheless, he dared and undertook this endeavor, which I can prove with my dear companion, the fair Luna, in no uncertain terms. He dressed her in an unworthy red garment and promised her with certainty that, in such attire, she would miraculously be freed from all her cold humors and afflictions, and would be perfectly healthy and complete without any deficiency. Yet, none of this has happened. Instead, after much awkward and inept application, she has become more afflicted and sickly than before. So you see, merciful Judge, how it truly stands before you, as a filthy pig wallowing in a mire, defiled and stained in every way. Indeed, he is fully blemished and entirely unwholesome in his own body, an abomination and disgrace to others. If his skill and mastery in medicine were genuine and true, he would undoubtedly demonstrate it on himself. For it is commonly known that those who wish to cure the ailments of others' bodies should not themselves be afflicted with poor health throughout their own. This medicine and certain cure rest solely with me, the noble gold, and without me, no one else can accomplish it. Yet iron presumes much like inexperienced doctors who present themselves as excellent masters of medicine to people, boasting of great aid and health benefits they will provide, yet often fall sick themselves or are already sick, and can do little to help even themselves, only managing to sustain and prolong their lives before others through small measures which rarely works. These unskilled, unreliable, clumsy fools and blockheads end up dying young with significant ailments and weaknesses of their own bodies, without having reached a natural old age, just like other frail people. Iron, too, behaves just like deceitful merchants, who present their pennyworth counterfeit goods to people with great weights and lofty praises, and hang them up for display, while internally valuing them much less than they claim, selling them as if they were something they are not and never could be. And even though the buyer clearly sees this and knows it, they are deceived into paying for these goods by the merchant's flattering words. Iron also behaves like the deceitful alchemists and impostors of this art, who wander across lands, traveling to princes and lords, claiming that they possess knowledge claimed to be able to create Sol and Luna, to prepare the Philosopher's Stone, to coagulate and fix Mercury. If only they were given a piece of soul or paid for their art, they promise to teach this work and art to others. However, I hold that if they truly knew anything certain about this art, they would not engage in such folly nor demand money and gifts from princes and lords, but would instead help and advise themselves without external assistance. Then the wise philosopher Barclays Anglicanus says that all those who present themselves as possessing this noble art, who wander through the land offering it for money and profit, and sell it only if they are paid enough, should be regarded with suspicion. Such people have never seen nor learned the true art, but bring it into contempt everywhere, and thus they deserve to be regarded and remain as frivolous, idle folk. For this reason, Barclays also says that it is a judgment from God if someone can truly master the art of alchemy, and yet knows not to reveal or retain it before others. Beyond all this, there is yet another dishonorable act, surpassing all previously mentioned offenses by iron against me, which in no way should be tolerated nor endured. Yet it, iron, presumes to drive out all illnesses and ailments of humans, something that is in no way its role but rather pertains solely to me alone. In fact, it is entirely unable to accomplish this, for it is not the true health-giving iron of which the philosophers speak, but instead a counterfeit and a whorish impostor in which no good is found. Even if it were the true iron, as it pretends to be, the genuine power and virtue of health-giving resides solely within me, noble soul, and in no way within the gallows-bound iron. For such grievous disgrace and belittlement inflicted upon me, iron makes its official protest before the court's appointed notary, named Ruffle or Russell, asserting its rightful need to defend itself against the accusations made by the alleged gilded soul. Iron contests the harsh charges laid against it, calling it a fraud and an impostor, which it cannot bear to tolerate due to its honorable nature, since such charges can in no way be proven with truth and justice. Soul continues, "As I have spoken, so I wish it to remain spoken. For this iron as it appears is indeed a counterfeit and is not, nor will it ever be, the true iron. All philosophers write and speak likewise. Iron is not attracted by the magnet stone."
To this, the Mars answers, saying, "Good-hearted judge and friend, I, simple and ignorant as I am, would have thought that such a supposed and perceived soul would never be so unreasonable, inconsiderate, and shameless to publicly disgrace, shame, and slander me before you. Given that it boasts of its noble heritage and vast intelligence, I had hoped it would express itself in a moderate and modest way toward me due to the command you, honored judge, previously decreed. But since this has not happened and it has thus attacked my honor, I have no choice but to defend myself before you, the rightful judge, with a humble plea that you may kindly hear my response. For if it should come to this, and everyone is allowed to scoff, mock, and shame others as they please, I would, and might dare to speak with more truth, and in part act accordingly. Thus, it is shown that this colored, arrogant, fame-seeking, supposed soul is indeed a deceiver and betrayer of the entire world. However, I will first wait to see if this highly learned soul, which, by its own claim, has read so many writings and philosophers, will be able to sufficiently prove the dishonorable insults it has cast upon me. If it fails, I will distance myself from the arrogance it has imposed upon me and retain my honor as best I can.
Furthermore, the soul openly protests, in the presence of a notary, Tartarus, and demands witness to such slanderous words. The judge, however, commanded both of them, under threat of losing his friendship and suffering great, severe fiery penalties, to make peace. He spoke to the soul, saying, "You shall pursue your complaint against the iron justly, explain its nature and effects, not only complain, but also prove and clearly demonstrate your claims, all in the presence and hearing of the iron so that it may respond as best it knows how to your accusations." Thus, following the presentation of complaint and response, I, the judge, may better understand the case and finally establish a perpetual and good peace between you both, which as he could do good would like to make and confirm.
Hereupon the noble man's soul set about repeating and proving his complaint anew. Since I am now the plaintiff, I must indeed bring forth my complaint, explaining my nature and effect to some extent, as much as I am aware of and possess, along with the love of people towards me, composed in opposition to the despised and worthless iron, revealing this to you, noble natural judge, as appropriately as possible. And if the iron has any understanding, it will not insult me. Against you, honorable judge, this would not be necessary, and I hereby take you as a witness, since you know me better than I know myself. However, so that the pile of filth sweeper and murderer, the iron, may no longer be proud, but instead have its arrogance brought to shame, let it as it pleases, listen to this. All my complaints and protests against iron do not come from envy, but rather arise from my nature, and are so founded that I cannot bear to reveal and relate some of the matters before you, good-hearted judge, when the opportunity arises. Indeed, my nature is so noble and virtuous, far above the gallows bird that is iron, as the dear sun is exalted above all the planets of the stars and the firmament. I am also compared to the sun in the firmament of heaven, and called by its name, and for significant reasons. Just as the dear sun radiates its distinct, clear and transparent light over itself as far as Saturn and Aries and extends below itself as far as Luna, so do I spread my own nature and power, according to the characteristics of the planets, over the rough and imperfect metals as well as human bodies, some more, some less. And this is true, for I seek to illuminate every imperfect metal that I encounter as much as is within me, for in my own nature and essence, I am the most powerful and beloved of all metals, indeed the ultimate and most precious treasure among all things, following humanity and souls. No person can live without my help. Through me, all opposing, angry and contentious matters of this world are concluded and resolved. Without my assistance, no one can accomplish anything brave. I am the raw king, the king of honor, adorned with a golden helmet, scepter and shield to fight and conquer my enemies when I must. No one can truly resist me with founded truth. All metals must bend and yield before me. I hold all my adversaries in low regard. I am a remedy for the human body, for visible and invisible, comprehensible and incomprehensible ailments. Without my faithful counsel, neither human nor metal can truly recover or become properly healthy. No evil spirit or devil, whether it dwells in fire, air, water or earth, can vanquish, torment, or torture me. I am without any defect. I fear no hardship or danger. I am content with all judgments, and I remain always unblemished in my honor and dignity. I can withstand anyone's arrogance, no matter how long it lasts. I am the strongest in battle by fire, for I have often faced great hardship and torment, yet I always return unscathed with joy. This greatly displeases all my friends, to say nothing of my enemies. This is because I am homogeneum, and no opposing quality can be found in me, nor can one quality in me contradict the other. I, soul, am the supreme, most powerful king and prince of this world. I am a metal greater than all that is comprehensible. The most important and heaviest thing is, within the body of my mother, the most beautiful and tender earth, mixed with indestructible elements, best refined and forged under the hammer of the master, and all the judgments of the goldsmith are suffering. What is desired by the people, it will be granted. I am alone in the fire, without departure, remaining, above all other things. No one can speak of my virtue. I am the noble Shah, indeed a persistent Tincture, of all imperfect metals. As often happens that I am made by some alchemists and workers of the art of alchemy, not failing without being calcined and resolved. I remain innocent and blameless, as neither my nature nor my essence is known or understood. But by a learned natural philosopher, I soon do what I must, for I am mixed with and united with the metallic spirits, within which I am, and few disruptors and false treacherous people can judge or send away. And if they are not found, such as secret or natural knowledge to encounter. I am the most noble substance Mercury, the purest and most fire-resistant matter of sulfur, which does not burn or is consumed by fire, and is raw to my essential material as that. The clearly stated and highly esteemed philosopher Geber in his book, Summa, proves. I am, by my nature, the true ferment that is often sought in some things. From me, a cake is baked. Whoever eats from it will no longer hunger. No imperfect metal may be transformed into solid gold without me or my sulfur, as the judge alone knows what is best. And so, to explain it to you, without further delay, I am also the heart of the precious stones, the king and the head of all comprehensible things. I am not easily transformed like other bodies, neither by air, fire, water, nor the earth. I am a restorer and helper of the corrupted old friends and their wasted youth. I can renew old age and banish all sadness, trembling and heartaches. I can bring the old dead man back to life, and protect him from all misfortunes and diseases, until the appointed death by God arrives. This can be proven when I should, and indeed you the judge know this well, for my power, strength, virtue, nature and essence are written in another book of Pliny in the 4th chapter. Also, Serapio writes of my power in the book Aggregatoris chapter, De Oro, and the honorably renowned Avicenna, in his other book, Cap de Oro, on gold. Also in his book De Viribus Cordis, on the powers of the heart, and Bulensis in his book Servitor de Sanitate Hominis, the servant of man's health, all of whom testify and preserve my powerful, noble and well-armed virtue of medicine, which lies hidden in my nature, such that one cannot find anything like me elsewhere. And where the extreme of external knowledge, the iron, fails to recognize such high and renowned teachers, I will not only prove this but also bring forward many other honorable witnesses to confirm this truth. For example, in Greek, the names Hippocrates, Dioscorides and Johann Damascenum, Filium Meju; in Arabic, Razin, Averroem; in Hebrew, Isaac, Rabbi Moses; and in Latin, Cornelium Calsum, Cassium, Felicem Servium, Simonem Samiensem, all of whom bear witness to my nature and powerful virtue with sufficiently grounded truth. And where the supposed iron and striking knowledge fail to be sufficient, I shall have many other brave and distinguished men as witnesses. Namely, Geber, Raymundus Lullius, Raymundus Militum, Determino Burilium, Albertus Magnus, Magnum, Hortulanus, Arnoldus, Algzalum, Colec, Johann de Rupicissa, Almanu, Eusebium, Moglius, and Thomas Aquinas, etc., all of whom will undoubtedly give me their confirmed knowledge without hesitation. And you as the judge can testify that this evidence is more true than anything else. Therefore I humbly submit my proof against the supposed iron and striking knowledge, having led it to its end, so that it may no longer in any way or form be obstructed or hindered from me and my rightful house to my harm, nor will it continue with its effort or deceit should it try to bring up or attempt anything again. I declare my entire power and the strength of my nature and effect, along with my love and friendship, as I am bound to all people and dedicated to them, so that I might tell you much more than could be conveyed in a single day. Therefore I have already shown the renowned natural philosophers and teachers of this noble and hidden art, placing their writings before your eyes, so that the iron, even if it does not want to believe me, may still benefit from all the legitimate needs and knowledge with much greater powers and virtues, which I can tell of and inform you about. I am also gold, far more renowned and honored than all other metals and comprehensible things, greatly beloved. In contrast, the iron is cursed, burned, and hated by rebellious murderers, which everyone clearly knows and bears witness to without needing further proof. I am carried by popes, emperors, and kings upon their heads, by princes, dukes, counts, knights, lords, and the citizens of cities as ornamentation on their necks and to adorn their cloaks. The noble and the humble, delicate young women and ladies, place me in chains for soft rest between their white bosoms, and wear beautiful rings made for me on their delicate, slender, and white hands. In me, many a precious stone is set, such as carbuncles, rubies, emeralds, diamonds, turquoises, and the high topaz, along with many others, all placed with great cost and decoration. Wherever I am, there is no poverty, and there is healing. The evangelist John has named me in his secret revelation in many places, with great honor and various hidden names, praising me. And I have adorned the holy heavenly city of Jerusalem in a symbolic form, as I also adorned the holy and beautiful temple of Solomon with various ornamental designs and most skillful artwork, as is known by many. May he be enlightened. I have crowned the beast with heads. I am a garment, an ornament, a decoration, and a protector of all beloved saints and holy tombs. In me rests the holy cross, upon which the Creator of all things, for the sake of humanity, suffered death for us poor humans to forgive our sins. In me is kept the holy venerable sacrament of the body and blood of Jesus Christ, by faith, until his return at the last judgment. In the holy office of the Mass, no priest can perform my service, nor can he complete it without me. In sum, no knightly, brave, honorable, and renowned deed can be completed without me, nor can it reach a joyful end. I must be in every way present and available. No man exists who does not desire me, and who is not lovingly devoted to me, or who does not join himself to me. The whole world is well disposed toward me. All races of the earth seek me. No one can be satisfied with my lust, for I know no enemy on earth, in the air, in water, or in fire. Thus, there is no fear in me of finding myself before the gallows. Here I ask you, noble and kind-hearted judge, that you might seriously instruct the poor, unworthy, inexperienced, and fragile iron. From now on, all indicated actions and appropriate powers, both in medicines and tinctures, belong to me alone, and to no one else, especially not to iron, to be contained and avoided forever. For iron in its faults brings great shame and dishonor before honest people. And it is known that not only all the wise men, but above all you, the faithful and just judge, must understand that all powers and actions related to metals and human beings belong to me, and not to iron. It is clearly and undeniably established that iron is the true destroyer of all spiritual matters. And although it might appear noble, as iron would have people desire it and seek refuge in it, just as they do with me, it was never so, and it has instead become an abomination to everyone. Whoever wears it around their neck or on other parts of their body as ornamentation would much prefer to be without it, and often wishes that it were 1,000 miles away from them. For by carrying it, they are defiled and exposed to deceit, suffering and misery, often even a bitter and shameful death. Therefore, it is justly called a murderer and the servant of the executioner. Indeed, iron is not only the murderer of people but also of animals, a true corrupter. It is the destroyer of all green herbs and growing things, a breaker of all cities, castles, forts, markets, and villages, and wherever murders occur, iron is the enemy, like the devil's forerunner and hunting dog, rejoicing in its work. It is the first to act, and without it, very few murders or deaths would be committed or carried out. Where it is not well applied, iron is most often the cause, and always nearby. It is the true peacebreaker, whereas I am the true peacemaker. Over iron, one often pulls their hair out in grief, with loud cries and lamentations. In contrast, over me, many hearts and souls rich and poor alike rejoice with folded hands in gladness. And so, just and earnest judge, if you had not acted so harshly, I would not have spoken much, but I would have demonstrated and exposed the evil of iron itself, such that you would not have believed it. Henceforth, as you handle it, I fear it not at all, but only fear for the judgment of my good and righteous judge. For the sake of my will, I will leave it behind. Therefore, I give you full power over all of my nature, my essence, love, and effect, so that you may take charge and act accordingly, for your handling will be all the better. May you pronounce a just judgment between us both, and if the wicked ones, the bearers of iron, continue to fail in answering my complaint or attempt to undermine my high honor, I will reserve the right to respond in a manner justified by legal necessity.
Chapter 3. How the Judge Mercury attempts to make a just contract between iron and gold, but iron, due to its necessity, refuses to take responsibility, and for this reason, it must also be heard. After the Judge Mercury heard the complaint of the soul, and noticed a great bitterness and hatred against iron, he ordered the soul to withdraw and spoke to the iron, "You have indeed heard the complaint of gold against you, and where you thought you could defend yourself with similar words, you can easily conclude for yourself that from the ever-resent words of insult, no reconciliation can be hoped for, rather, there will always be two hard stones grinding against each other. However, if you are inclined towards peace, would endeavor and ask you to reconcile, and to bring you both together in friendly agreement, so that both of you may give the human race, as well as the metals, a potent and healthy remedy, with immeasurable benefit. But this cannot happen unless you, for your part, after my undeniable knowledge, without any malice or hindrance, can prove your strength within it."
The response of iron. O kind peacemaker, since you, the brother of gold, have so strongly colored your words, Your Honor, I trust that you will listen to my pressing need, for I hope that you will, as is fitting, hear my plea to preserve my honor and good name, as I intend to remain untainted by the falsified gold. If I bring this matter before you, I expect that my honorable justification will follow according to your prudent will.
The judge, now that soul has once again been summoned, the judge said in the presence of both parties, "Since iron is unwilling to remain silent regarding the accusation brought by gold and intends to present his honorable defense, and since he has asked to be allowed to do so, I, by virtue of my judicial office and with your mutual agreement, cannot deny him this right. As the saying goes, one man's word is no word, one must hear both sides. Therefore, iron, you shall carefully consider your response and present it with due respect."
Then iron said, "Most illustrious and noble Judge Mercury, if it please you to hear of the arrogance, pride, and injustice true and only adorned gold, as the plaintiff presumed to be wrongly compelled, I have patiently listened to your baseless and shameless accusations, word by word. Not only have these accusations been little praiseworthy toward me, but they have gone against my own clear conscience and good judgment, accusing me with false words, attacking me most disgracefully, and blaming me for many greater sins, thus gravely tarnishing my honor. They have also diminished my excellent virtue and bravery so much that I could barely find the patience to listen to all of it. It would hardly be surprising if my heart were to break over this. However, since you, honorable judge, have graciously offered to hear my necessary response, I hope thereby to catch my breath once more and prove my innocence in such a way that this falsified gold will hereafter desist from further stirring trouble against me. And I say thus, honorable judge, I do not doubt that, with your faithful nature, which has never failed to provide support or comfort to the wise and understanding, you yourself are shaken and deeply moved by how this deceitful gold has publicly, brazenly, and shamelessly accused me before you and all who are present and surrounding us, as I, as someone unlearned, who has never read nor understood the scriptures, nor comprehends certain matters, which should, by nature and quality, belong solely to gold and to no one else. It has presumed to attribute to me things that are not in my nature or character. Yet, I am imperfect myself and not able to help others in this regard, nor am I the true iron, but rather a base counterfeit, an impostor, and a fraud. As such, it does not consider me worthy enough to argue with me before you, instead seeking to condemn me immediately based on its contrived and false accusations. Since it prides itself so highly and considers itself so superior, it seems to think it has the right to despise all others, concluding its talk and boasting in this manner. Thus, in my defense, I will respond briefly and modestly. If the falsified, painted gold were in its right mind, I would not doubt that it would never have dared to slander me so shamelessly and dishonorably before you, all your listeners and everyone present, accusing me so unjustly and undeservedly. However, it flatters and boasts of itself with such conceited pride. Even the wise man Cato said, "Do not praise yourself." Therefore, I hope, merciful judge, that since it gold has exalted itself so highly, it may now be humbled, brought down, and tamed by you. For as the holy evangelist Luke writes in his first chapter, "Whoever exalts himself shall be humbled." Thus, the same fate should come to this prideful, boastful gold. No one should boast of something they cannot truly provide or prove. I am content, yet I ask for my own honor's need, that such slanderous words against me either be corrected or, failing that it gold suffer the appropriate punishment, as is just. Gold acts like a boastful hunter who, speaking to his prince, invites great and powerful lords to his table and promises them a grand feast. He orders the cook to prepare everything in the kitchen with only water, wood, and fire at hand, as he had assured everyone that he would surely bring a fine, well-antlered stag by morning. When morning came, instead of bringing a noble stag as he had boasted, the hunter brought the miller's donkey. Thus, he was mocked by his own boastfulness. I, iron, have remained silent before you, noble judge, toward gold, though with great pain and distress in my heart, for it has boasted far too much and of things that only bring me frustration. These are matters it should have modestly refrained from speaking of and kept hidden from wise people. It has also defiled noble truth which should never be weakened or stained with numerous lies, obscuring it and not even being ashamed to voice such blatant falsehoods before you. Honorable judge, you should listen to these many falsehoods and be the judge of both my and gold's righteousness. I shall provide ample evidence showing that gold resembles more a country fraud than true gold. From such clear evidence, noble judge and our common, true friend, you will undoubtedly perceive that I am not inclined to defame or mock gold in the way it has so shamelessly dared to do to me, arrogantly presenting itself as capable of things it can never accomplish in eternity, nor in any deeds it might attempt. Gold behaves like a braggart who frequently boasts of great love from fair maidens, though no true affection has ever been granted to them. And since the deceitful gold has based the foundation of its presumed accusations and statements against me on the claim that I have supposedly presumed to act in ways that are entirely contrary to my nature, ways that do not suit me, and has thus insulted my honor, while considering and exalting itself far too highly, I now declare openly, before you, noble judge, and all present, that my nature, if one can speak of nature in such simple terms, is, as is the nature of gold, a single entity with the same essence and characteristics, without deficiency, neither more nor less, in its foundation than that of gold itself. And I believe that gold has neither read Albertus Magnus' writings on nature nor ever truly understood or comprehended its own nature or mine. It remains wholly unknown and almost impossible for it to know, for no one can fully recognize or possess complete knowledge of nature. Only the Creator of all natures, who has instilled it within us and all other things, can reveal it further and give understanding through his divine spirit, as he wills. I, iron, have stated that my nature, which I call my innermost essence, also called the occultum or hidden part, is equal in every respect to that of the deceitful gold, without any deficiency. And this is true not only for me but also for all other imperfect metals, such as lead, tin, copper, and even silver, about which you, noble judge, possess good and true knowledge above all others. But each of us in our own kind, such as I to iron, and lead to lead, has come to be what we are, not because of any fault of our own or of any other metals or of our kin in spirit or blood, but solely because of our common mother, the earth, and the influences of the heavens, according to the properties of the soil, the field, and the seed, and due to various natural flaws and cycles that bring us into this world in our incomplete forms. And in that all metals share one unified nature, I refer to gold's own words, where it said, "Its nature is the noblest and purest earth, and its father the purest mercury." Thus, if gold's mother was beautiful, while mine was more misshapen, this does not make my nature any less noble or valuable in the seed of my father. Furthermore, the highly learned Dr. Heinrich Mogul von Dunkelspiel speaks of metals thus: "The gaze of the heavens and its essential forces have separated the metals from one another. Gold became gold, and tin became tin, due to influences and accidents of all kinds." In the book De Conception Bominum, it is also written, "My child, do not be surprised at the differences among metals in their birth and appearance, that one looks so very unlike the other. For had the fatherly seed been poured into a different place, it would have taken on a different form. Now, judge, you see that often many highly learned and wise men appear in plain attire and sometimes even in poor clothing, yet are nonetheless filled with higher and hidden arts. but no one would readily believe in them or acknowledge their high intellect, which lies concealed in the innermost nature of their being, until such qualities are rightfully brought to light. Therefore, no one should judge such a man by outward appearance, for his knowledge, wisdom, and reason are hidden in the depths of his heart and known only to Almighty God. So it is here as well, that in my nature, within my innermost being, lies great strength and power. I have the power to act and prove my point, and I can whenever I wish. Yet no one should presume to advise or speak to the wise and understanding on this matter. On the other hand, it is often seen that a person, created by God, the Almighty, in the form of the body, adorned with all natural virtues, made and shaped according to his divine image, as it is written in Genesis, without blemish, yet often falls into great folly, and his noble soul is sullied by extravagant, public behavior and gestures. This is corrupted and spoiled by pride, vanity, disgrace, deceit, lies, and many other excesses that do not belong to his nature, his nobility, or his noble heritage. These things do not suit him and only serve to cause him great harm. Furthermore, through these behaviors, his very nature, body, and soul are eventually condemned to eternal unrest and damnation, as it is written in 2 Kings 18. This was the fate of the beautiful Absalom, the son of David, who, through pride, fell from one sin to another. Eventually, he was chased and defeated by his enemies and, driven by his pride, was hanged on a tree, pierced, and thus perished in his high-minded and godless life. Lowly and humbled, just as with the proud gold, it may also happen without a doubt that it would remain in its boastful, arrogant state. These beautiful, shining, and seemingly glorious things, as well as the haughty, proud people who are praised for their lovely and noble physical appearance alone, are often seen and admired. Especially in strength, virtue, and the power to act, they are thought to lead and surpass all others. But such is not the case. For our dear Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ, true God and true man, who knows both the inner and outer nature of all things, best knows what is truly beautiful, what is worthy of praise, and what is rightly deserving of respect. And just as all things are perfectly and rightly made, as it is written in the first chapter of Genesis and in Luke 7, everything is created in number, measure, and weight without error, as is noted in the Book of Wisdom, chapter 11. Above all, because he faithfully obeyed the will of his heavenly Father. By changing the measure of things, he made known the way to truth and to heaven, and he wanted to free us from eternal servitude and redeem us. He did not only take to himself those who were outwardly beautiful or worthy of worldly admiration, but also the lowly, the unrefined men, choosing them as his own, like Peter, Andrew, James, and even Judas the traitor. Despite Judas' inner sinfulness and lack of understanding, he was not rejected, but was included among the apostles. Had Judas sought God's mercy, like other penitent sinners, he would have been forgiven and would have found salvation. But instead, Judas did not turn to God's mercy, and in doing so, he missed the opportunity for grace. After his resurrection, Jesus enlightened his apostles through the Holy Spirit and sent them into the world to spread his holy teachings. Through their work, they filled the world with the message of salvation, and thus the Christian faith was established and continued, governing and sustaining the world until the end of time. He also had his beloved disciples, who, in this wicked and godless world, endured untold hardship, suffering, and even shame for their faith. Such martyrs must suffer and endure even unto death, but in the end, they will be judged by the Lord of heaven and all of humanity. Yet, the traitor Judas, who sought his own gain, desiring silver and gold over greater things, succumbed to this greed and betrayed our beloved Lord Christ. For this, he will be cast into eternal torment and suffering. As it is written in Luke 7, "He has brought down the mighty from their thrones and exalted the humble." No one should think themselves higher or richer than anyone else in this world, nor raise themselves above others because of their noble or higher standing. All, regardless of status, are as humble as beggars or Lazarus in God's eyes and should never think of themselves as superior, nor should they fall into the abyss of hell. It is not so, however, for those who enjoy the pleasures of this world in excess, reveling like swine in filth, and who continue in this manner without heed. these, in the end, will face eternal destruction. Just as the fruit of the earthly seed and its heart must wither and perish, so too do I, the despised iron, believe that God will eventually cause the proud, deceitful, and inflated gold to be sufficiently punished for its shameless lies and malicious mistreatment against me, and that it will meet its just recompense. In contrast, I hope that, according to my merits and the rightful claims, I will be elevated by you, the noble and mighty judges. For although I, as iron, am of lowly form by my natural effects, should I not be, above all, more valuable than other metals? Surely the Almighty God did not create me without purpose, nor without reason placed me upon the earth as iron. Rather, I was ordained for another purpose. Yet this so-called beautiful and falsely praised gold never truly understood my nature and essence. It judged me solely based on my outward form and appearance, before making false claims and passing unjust and unfounded judgments against me in front of you, my noble judges. The philosophers, those who think deeply and love wisdom, have sometimes used a proverb to describe the nature of metals, saying, "Our iron is not drawn by the magnet." I take great offense at this, and find it not unjust to respond with the truth. This statement made by those learned in gold does not, in the slightest, reflect true understanding. I will prove this in two ways. Firstly, gold has judged me solely based on my external appearance, without recognizing me for my inner nature. It evaluated me by my poor attire, dismissing me as insignificant, much like a penniless beggar. However, when I removed my coarse garment and was cleansed of its external appearance, I could stand freely. The magnet, which could not attract me while I wore that rough garment, would now find that its force would no longer work on me. Indeed, the gold's power to judge me, and to understand my true essence, would be entirely void. Therefore, as a common saying goes, clothing does not make the man. One often looks at someone from the outside, but does not know what they can do on the inside. On the other hand, I do not accept that the inflated gold should label me as an outcast. I am not one. My arrival is equal to that of any noble, for my father is the noble Lubricus, known to the counselors of gold as a true brother, and my mother is from the noble Storterra family. With the siblings of gold's mother, this truth cannot be denied by gold, nor can it disown me. Gold can no longer claim that I am its enemy, nor can it call me a bastard or an outcast. I am not a bastard or a castaway, and I hope to stand before my God and your good judgment, to clear my name and defeat this arrogant accusation. Let me illustrate this with an example parable. Once upon a time, there was a mighty, powerful, wealthy, noble, and beautiful king, the likes of whom could not be found anywhere else. He was adorned with all the noble virtues and honors, greater than all others, richly adorned with dignity, wealth, and power, and wisdom without flaw. This was reflected in a rough, strong, unrefined, and ugly peasant's daughter, whom he loved deeply in his heart, so that he mingled with her in natural works and took her as his wife. Now his true friends and nobles heard of this and were greatly distressed over their king. They asked him why his noble and royal majesty, with all his excellent wisdom, had married such a lowly and insignificant person, which went against all noble tradition and custom, without their approval. To this, the king responded, he did it out of love, driven by his deep desire for her. And after the peasant woman had many children, the king hoped and believed that his line would be multiplied through her, expecting her to bring forth many heirs so that his kingdom would not fall into foreign hands or be ruled by others. Thus, the shapeless peasant woman conceived from the king's noble seed and bore sons. The first son looked almost identical to the king, bearing his face, but with the demeanor of the mother. The second son resembled the mother more in face. The third son resembled neither the father nor the mother, but instead took after the kitchen servant, whom the mother had seen diligently in the kitchen during her conception. The fourth son had a physical defect that neither the father nor the mother had. The fifth son was more handsome than the father, and his hands and feet resembled those of the mother. The mother loved this fifth son more than the others because of his beauty. Now the father was aware that these 5 children were all legitimate sons, born from natural works of a proper marriage, as the mother had been very diligent and surrounded by good and faithful guardians. Therefore, the queen could not reasonably have any suspicion or evidence to suggest otherwise. Which of these 5 sons should be regarded or compared to the so-called bastard or whorechild? Truly, none of them. Thus, it would be better for soul that is so wise and highly learned to consider the true nature of my internal, hidden, and wonderful transformation more carefully, and not judge me solely based on outward appearances or my visible, external, and ugly characteristics. In the form of a darkened judgment, it is so little concerning me that my honor has been publicly defamed and slandered, and that I am certainly no bastard child, but truly born of noble birth. I still have my inheritance share alongside my 4 brothers, and I await it, as the eldest of them, Caleb, Imach, and Balaram, have named me, and they love me and regard me as their rightful natural brother and bodily co-heir. While I was not born legally, as they were, they did not grant me an inheritance share nor allow me to claim or demand one. Herewith, I will remove the false slander that has been imposed on me, having been unjustly harassed by the pompous, false, and treacherous soul, and having been excessively excused and defended against these accusations. I trust that you, the honorable judge, will seriously punish these offensive and unfaithful actions of gold, so that in the case of my innocence, I may be defended and recognized as such. The gold has given me more than what I deserved, as if I were an unlearned man who had not read or understood the scriptures, giving blame to other metals. It wounded me and caused great frustration, and it has done so with its friend and lover, whom it calls Luna, as a witness. She bears witness for me, to which I have promised to dress her and share with her great health in such attire, and to continually defend her, which, however, has not happened. To this I give the following answer. Had Luna not defiled herself with other foreign, stained clothes, and instead used the proper attire of such clothing, she would not have been unfit. But in my red-purple garment, which, as it is well woven, dyed, and made of indestructible, unburnable material, inside and out, she would have been well heated, and without any doubt or resistance, she would have been cleansed of all her wickedness and deficiencies, leading to true righteousness. For this I take my lover, Luna, herself as a witness.
Regarding this matter, Luna was interrogated, and she said, "It is true that everything the iron said is correct, but I did not follow him. I was instead on a journey with various powders and unworthy remedies, as though stained and corrupted. Yet I trusted iron, and still did not receive any good help, although he worked hard and gave much effort to prove and demonstrate this. This witness, the soul, was greatly frightened at heart."
The iron continued, "O judge, since you have now listened to the Luna and heard her speak against soul, bearing witness on her own behalf and opposing the truth, then you may rightly assume that soul I am not alone in this matter but have other accusations that are dangerous and unjust against her. For the moon is dear to gold, and just as gold is dear to her, however, she has nevertheless not admitted her unjust accusation against gold. Therefore, dear judge, I beg you not to believe her further nor to allow her to bring shame upon me or to grant me less respect. And I, iron, tell you now, from what has been revealed and made known, that you are seeking truth and good fortune. If you follow my words, if you are guided by me, from all stubbornness and resistance, you will finally come to wisdom. However, you must prepare yourself in the fine bathhouse of the Swiss Valley, named so fair and lovely, for washing and cleansing, so that I may make you wholly sound, through the right methods as per the judge's will, and unite you with the princes and lords as the pure gold, esteemed and honored in the highest place, so that you may continue to prosper and never know illness again, that neither lack nor poverty may appear nor be found any more, and that you may no longer lack anything in all."
Chapter 4. Here, the iron contradicts and refutes the gold's boastful self-praise, and responds accordingly.
Faithful judge, I have heard and perceived, in public, from the pompous gold, my adversary, how it praised and exalted itself with such high-flown and inflated words, claiming to be free from all shortcomings, and that it possessed great honor, strength, and virtues, which, as you well know, may not all be true. Such claims have always been secretly held by wise masters and philosophers, described only with concealed words. I have hoped, however, that it was indeed as wise as it seemed, and that it was not merely parading its own praise, showing off as if it were the most important thing, especially since it began to boast that it was beyond reproach and perfect, which I now find to be offensive.
Esteemed judge, you have now heard from my opponent, Iron, how he openly came forward against me, proudly boasting and expressing his self-assured opinions. He claims to be equal to me in strength and virtue, and to possess manly courage. But I have come to the conclusion that his words are hollow. His supposed qualities are, in truth, hidden beneath his coarse, impure nature. Just as the ancient masters say, iron is actually a substance that, even if polished and refined, cannot shine like gold. His base nature makes it impossible for him to truly embody nobility. Though he tries to appear strong, he does not possess the beauty, the purity, or the enduring strength that we, the higher metals, display by nature. To insult, disgrace, and slander me, while accusing me of causing shame, and that I alone am responsible for murder and uprising.
Here, dear heart judge, I wish to defend my innocence and prove before you and your companions that this gold, which so cleverly wishes to appear wise, should be ashamed of itself for the words that came from its mouth. These words, which were spoken about me, should be seen as self-accusations and understood as such. I can truthfully say that I, and not the soul, am the true peacemaker and reconciler of great disputes and quarrels. If I had not resisted, the gold with its decorated, splendid form would have taken over, so that all laws, courts, and justice would be destroyed and fall to the ground. And if the corrupted gold, which the frivolous, godless, and shameless people cling to so easily, were not present, many evil, dishonorable, suspicious, and malicious deeds would be committed, leading people to violate divine commandments and moral laws. Only through its greed, and the influence of gold and power, do they engage in these wicked and inhumane acts to steal, rob, burn, commit adultery and prostitution, gluttony and drunkenness, to live in excess, betray the land and people, and many other sinful deeds, which are mostly undertaken and carried out for the sake of that wretched gold. This has often been the cause of my good counsel and assistance being disregarded with violence, and I have been compelled to punish such criminals for their disobedience and wrongdoing, in order to maintain common justice and fairness. And indeed, it is precisely this gold that has often been the cause of my bad actions, and I must always be cautious and vigilant regarding this greedy gold, because if any evil is ever intended or happens because of it, I must punish it severely, and I prefer to stay away from it unless it gives me cause to act. Therefore I, Iron, am truly a peacemaker, and you, Soul, are a troublemaker, corrupter, and bringer of harm. This is well known by all, and the wise philosophers have written about it carefully, understanding it as well as anyone could in their so-called wisdom. If Soul were ever to be bitten by the tongue, it would reveal the truth. Such accusations of dishonor have poured over me, which indeed, as previously occurred with few others, have echoed back through the forest. Hence the initial sound was returned. However, it is like a story about two young women in a convent who had become friends. They did not wish to submit to the father or priest by going to confession, and they believed it would be a great challenge to reveal all their private feminine secrets and various sins to the priest. Therefore, they decided to consult each other and then go together to Rome to bring their complaints to the Holy Father, the Pope. When the Holy Father, the Pope, had heard and understood their strange petition, he asked them to return in 3 days. He then gave them a beautiful golden box, within which a living bird was enclosed, and he instructed them not to open the box but to carefully guard and keep it, as it contained a precious relic. They were to bring it back unopened at the appointed time, after which he would give them a proper answer to their questions and desires. However, as soon as when the two convent maidens returned from the Pope with the little box, they thought and spoke to each other, "We must take a look to see what is in this beautiful little box, which the Holy Father, the Pope, has so strictly forbidden us to open." They said, "We will be careful to close it again just as it was before." But when they opened it with great curiosity, the little bird quickly flew out, which greatly frightened them. When they returned to the Pope at the appointed time, holding the empty box with great fear and trembling, hoping he would permit them to confess directly to him, he asked them to hand over the box with the relic, which they did. When he opened it and saw the bird was gone, he asked the convent maidens where it had gone. They confessed that it had flown away from them. Then he replied, "I had strictly forbidden you to open the box, and yet you could not keep that command. How then could you keep the secrecy of confession, which absolutely must not be revealed, under penalty of losing the priestly office and severe punishments, as commanded by me and all popes. Therefore, I command you to return to your convent and to behave like other frail humans, to confess to the priest, under severe penalty and threat of eternal damnation. So I, too, speak to iron, the steadfast soul, that it is not permitted to speak of certain secrets of gold, but rather forbidden by the decree of the ancient forefathers. Since this has not been observed, it shall no longer be trusted with any secret, hidden counsel, nor should it be further entrusted or commanded to act. Moreover, it is apparent how dearly loved and valued it is, like the noble gems one possesses, and whoever carries it is adorned with great honor and fame, while I, in contrast, am met with disgrace and shame, with insulting words calling me a rebel and murderer. Since such boasts have been made against me to my dishonor, I can no longer restrain myself from responding for the sake of my respectable reputation and great usefulness. Thus, I allow my response to be heard, and I will not permit the ambitious presumption of the soul to continue to obscure with its shining. Yet it would suit everyone well, if, when they boast of themselves, they first give God Almighty the honor he is due, which I hereby acknowledge, for all my great and manifold benefits come from God alone, and with these I am endowed with gifts that are far less than soul, and yet gold cannot do without me at all. When someone wants to make a coin, or create something from it to sustain human life, even if it's worth barely a fraction of an ounce, they must first turn to me. I am the goldsmith's hammer, chisel, die, engraving tool, delicate rust, his tongs, his file, etc. Without me, nothing useful can be made from gold. It is utterly dependent on me, while I can easily do without it. I can function well without it, but it cannot be usefully worked without me. And it is known how eagerly it is desired, sought by all kinds of people. This is truly the case, for it is most notably sought by the great lords, the powerful, and the wealthy of this world with a particular thirst. Some even acquire it, but for many whose hearts cling too strongly to it, body and soul are plunged into ruin and damnation. On the other hand, many honorable men live long lives, and even if they have never possessed an ounce of the boastful gold in their lives, they have sustained themselves with God and a good conscience and have been able to give up their spirit in peace. These are the ones with whom I am most commonly found, who are more dear to me and more my friends than the wealthy. Many may my help is needed by everyone far more than the proud, dazzling appearance of gold. The poor can daily earn money with my help, honorably, without the addition of gold. Among these virtues, gold has highly praised itself, claiming to be the finest, most noble, and most enduring metal, possessing all qualities perfectly, remaining unchanged through all tests and unblemished. To that I respond that, although this was partly true in the past, it now contains more lies than truth. It has, in fact, insulted me in the most disgraceful way and maliciously damaged my honor, which was wholly unfair, as it is itself a mere fragment of a rogue. I may rightly say in truth that it is not true soul but an impostor of the entire world and the cause of much misfortune. To verify whether I am speaking lies or truth, know that it harbors deceit and fraud within its very heart. I implore you, judge of the heart, to examine it.
When it was investigated, one found it mixed with copper and silver, with which it deceives the world and proves its unfaithfulness. Therefore, the judge became very angry with gold and said to it, "Should you return with such deceit and fraud?" The judge of hearts examined whether gold possessed much or little of raw, unrefined, foreign, or meaningless material mixed into it, rather than being what it ought to be by true nature and pure essence. If it had, by itself, adhered to its own nature and clearly displayed its true properties, then it would no longer wish to associate with it, for it would bring no honor, only shame.
Iron then spoke, "Do you see, judge of hearts, where its foolishness leads? Have I not long said that its foolishness would be revealed to everyone? Where now are its wise words? Is it not written that the fool's folly shall be made manifest to all?"
Gold replied, "This is neither deceit nor fraud, for the emperor has permitted it."
To this Iron responded, "O kind judge of hearts, the emperor's permission serves a different purpose here and does not apply to this case at all. The emperor does not have the power to permit deceit, especially not to strengthen our dispute here or to hinder the truth, but rather to punish falsehood and disloyalty. For you have heard how it presents itself in its nature and properties as pure soul against me, yet it is not, for it has not been found as it claimed to be, boasting highly of itself and scorning me in your presence. This, however, does not surprise me much, for it is in the nature of rogues to enjoy the company of their kind and to wish that everyone follow in their footsteps. Those who have no goodness in them often wish to disparage and insult others. If it were truly natural gold, as Mother Earth bore it and brought it forth from herself without fire, I would not have spoken so poorly of it, and it would have remained unscathed by my words. But now that I have been drawn into this dispute, I must, to the best of my ability, defend myself and respond in kind. And if I have spoken a bit too much, I ask that you forgive me. I am willing to do more if needed. I also admit that it has claimed and boasted that in all qualities, it is entirely uniform, that no element can diminish, alter, or tarnish it, and therefore it is rightly called homogeneum, being indestructible and constant, even in fire. If it were the true gold, I would believe it, but it is rarely found to be so. It also claims to be the true, authentic philosophical gold, also claims to be the true Philosopher Stone and the noble red tincture, the ultimate achievement of the great art of alchemy. These foolish words amaze me greatly, for it should be ashamed of such blatant lies and refrain from them. All philosophers generally speak of 3 types of stones, namely the animal, vegetable, and mineral stones. Above all, Coelestinus writes that there are 12 stones of the wise. However, all philosophers who have cited soul as a witness against me agree unanimously that there is only one stone, which possesses in itself threefold properties: nature, power, and affinity, those of mineral, animal, and vegetable realms. Gold is utterly incapable of achieving or containing such qualities. This stone, which Adam and Eve took with them from paradise, originates from a noble creature, and its work has never been publicly described by anyone. It is also known as microcosmos and microregni, for its properties are wondrous, and you, judge of hearts, know all its aspects better than I can describe, so you know well that I am telling the truth. Moreover, this stone is called an elixir by the wise philosophers and is created from the mercurial stone, which contains both gold, claims to be of such noble nature that it is used to adorn the finest gemstones, to seal the holy sacraments, relics, and sacred things, as philosophers have written. My response to this is that I care little for such claims, but I cannot overlook its arrogant pride and must bring it to light as something rather laughable. I acknowledge, in the interest of truth, that no ruby, diamond, carbuncle, or any other gemstone is adorned with me. But, in contrast, the most precious, beneficial, and useful stone, one without which no person in this transient world can live, is set in me, and I am set in it, the millstone. Furthermore, gemstones can indeed be set without my aid. I am the most useful and necessary thing on earth. No craftsman or artist can do without me. I am the one who makes cradles for children and brewing pots, axes for farmers. In short, I am the essential tool of every trade. Through me, weapons and armor are forged for war and conflict, in love and sorrow, far and wide. Through me, justice and righteousness are upheld in all things. I bind the tailors, cobblers, and furriers with their needles and shears. I make the sharpening stones and mill wheels. I give the fishermen their hooks. I prepare weapons for the noble knights and protect them in battle, in the village and in the field. I help build cities, fortresses, and castles, which otherwise would have been left to gold's domain. And though sometimes wrongs and injustices occur through me, it is often the fault of gold that I am blamed as a murderer or destroyer, even though all is done without my will, and not by my fault, but rather by the pursuit of gold, which so many men covet for their own profit and greed. In their desire for riches and gold, they seek to harm each other, standing ready to kill for it, and so it follows that in the end, violence, injury, or death comes about, not by my doing but by their own wicked anger. However, I do not cause harm or enmity through my actions. I am often found in my work, where no harm comes to anyone, nor do I incite any misfortune or trouble. I am not the murderer, but rather the one who is misused. I cleanse trees from their dry branches, caterpillars, and all impurities. I am used in all kinds of earthly tasks, construction, and in providing sustenance in this perishable world. I never despise anyone, unlike the corrupt gold. But whoever despises me, I shall also despise them. Through me, Many are nourished and made rich, who would otherwise have to beg for bread and soon perish. Through me, all evil is undone. Great quarrels are settled. The wicked are punished, and the righteous are protected. Justice and righteousness are upheld, things that the false gold cannot bring about. It would often be better on earth if things were so, and many matters would remain just if not hindered by the shameful pursuit of gold, which stops gifts and generosity. I am a friend to all men, the poor and the rich, and the rich may find less joy in me than in gold. For I am the lock, the bolt, the guardian, and the key of gold, keeping it locked away where it belongs. Without my help, gold is nothing. Through me it is found, dug, melted, spread, hammered, crushed, stamped, and minted. I give bells their tone and sound for divine service. I allow myself to be used according to the wisdom of the ancients, for love and peace. I fear neither love nor pain, but am always ready and inclined to punish evil and reward good. I am cheerful, undaunted, and perform my work boldly. I am the first in the field, in conflict, in pressing need, and in danger, yet I remain unscathed. Now, I will end my praise of the gold, which has been misused prematurely and without due honor, and will answer further regarding its glorious words, where it is said to be a better binder, a finisher, and a keeper of the holy sacrament and holiness. After all, men, through the fall and disobedience of Adam and Eve, were condemned to eternal death, as it stands in Genesis 3, and until no help or counsel could be found, it was only when the Almighty, the Holy One of all, the omnipotent God of hosts, took pity on our wretched, condemned humanity here on earth. He, through his divine and unfathomable counsel, ordered it so that the noble Boaz, beloved Son of Jesus Christ, who descended from the heights of heaven into this world of misery to reconcile us and make peace with his heavenly Father, intended to do so. And when the time of his bitter suffering and our redemption had come, I, Iron, through the highest and holiest of the holy, the Lord of heaven and earth, by taking on a human nature and an immaculate body, with my strength, higher than all the help of gold, with hands and feet nailed to the cross of suffering, made the sacrifice for the eternal good of all believing Christians. Through this figure, the godless are converted, and by acknowledging our unbelief and fulfilling our Christian duty, we are made eternally fixed. For I have pierced his holy side with a spear and cut through his blessed heart, thus reopening the fountain of life and mercy, which had been closed for more than 5,000 years. From it flowed abundantly 2 streams and springs, one white and one red, of the most noble tincture and essence, from which anyone who drinks will never thirst again for another earthly drink and will be healed forever. With body and soul, such as my noble work brings joy to all the angels in heaven, and causes the devils to tremble in hell. Therefore, just judge, observe, examine, and understand the worthiness and dignity of my noble gold, and judge fairly between us both. I trust in you, for you are especially attuned to my nature, and you will speak a joyful sentence for me, and bring down the arrogant and proud gold to a humble state. I ask for your final judgment, along with the due costs and damages.
The soul responds and says, O just judge, you have understood me well, and my noble nature has been recognized through your immeasurable and deep wisdom. Therefore, I trust you and the appropriate law. You will not condemn me as a horrible murderer as the base iron might, but you will deliver a fair and just judgment in my favor against the iron, so that I may be at peace with my mind, and I command you to act according to your divine justice.
Chapter 5. How the Judge, Mercury, in council with his attendants and assistants, deliberates whether a fair and harmless judgment could be found between the two parties. Then the judge, with his attendants and assistants, and the relatives of both the gold and the iron, having heard and received all the complaints and responses from both sides, along with the reports of all their flaws, went together into a private conversation and held deliberations with one another. After considering one another carefully, they deliberated on how best to resolve the matter, whether a well-founded, rightful, just, and tolerable judgment could be found in this situation. But since no such judgment seemed forthcoming that could stand before God and the world, they sent for the beautiful, innocent, delicate, and wisest virgin from the land of the Saxons, who lived in England, a leading philosopher and lover of truth, to listen to both sides of the case and provide them with her faithful counsel. After the young lady, wise and humble, had carefully considered the case with her master. She thanked them kindly and, after receiving well-considered advice, gave the judge, as the one in charge of the matter, a brief and humble response.
She said, "Judge, do not pass judgment until you have heard the complaints and responses of both parties. For if a hasty decision is made, one side will rejoice while the other is struck with fear, and from then on they will never be able to reconcile. The judge must especially be diligent and inclined to propose kindness and, through such small efforts, prevent all resistance and unnecessary costs, aiming for peace and harmony."
Therefore, after careful consideration, it was his counsel to avoid judgment and to seek out all possible good means to resolve the matter, provided the parties involved are willing to agree. When the judge understood and valued the faithful advice of the high-born young lady, he, along with his relatives and advisers, all agreed to follow her counsel and make every possible effort to resolve the matter with kindness. The parties, in turn, pledged, with both hand and mouth, to faithfully adhere to whatever the honorable judge would finally propose or instruct them to do. The judge spoke in kindness, "Gold, you must listen to me as a kind and gracious judge, for your brothers are in dispute. And so, if you both wish, you shall both be helped in this matter. However, first and foremost, soul, you were drawn to me due to your nature and good qualities, and it is true that I have special knowledge about you. Similarly, I also know the nature, properties, and effects of iron, which are no less familiar to me and my associates. Therefore, for the sake of justice, I cannot hide the fact that both of you are famous for great deeds, which you are, however, completely incapable of fulfilling. It is better for both of you to know this yourselves rather than to spend much time explaining this matter unnecessarily. And you, Gold, you are well aware that I do not act with you in kindness or join you in eternal love and friendship, for your power against other metals is nothing. You have often said that you know your nature well, and that no one else understands it better, but I must remind you that your nature and power originate from me, and thus, the craft must ultimately return to me. Otherwise, if you think that other metals are sick, you want to help cure them, but you have nothing to offer. For you yourself had to complain among yourself, out of special humility and love, I have never refused to create iron, wealth for you, as you well know, firmly, as we both remained silent in our bath and were completely dry, what with love, becomes the Luna proved / we can and will do that if necessary. But without my will and help you cannot do what you have already stated, but all strength and power is taken away from me. Yet, from a motive of special goodness and friendship towards my fellow creatures, I will never refuse to grant to thee, O iron, a power to procure riches, and I have often given thee that power, as thou well knowest when thou and I did sweat in our hot bath and dried ourselves afterwards. Recollect then what friendship and services we rendered to Lady Luna, which we are able to do again, if we please. Which, however, thou canst not do without my assistance. I must further tell you both, Iron and Gold, that you stand both in need of my counsel and help, whilst I can do with very little of your assistance. I also want nothing else than to say and demonstrate what is truthful and unimpeachable, that you all need my secret advice and help, but I need very little of yours. For everything that you both boast about between yourselves, no one can defend you, except to help and serve you. So you, Iron, also know that I possess the same knowledge of your nature, properties, power, and effects as I do with Gold. You can do even less than Gold, without me, to achieve anything substantial or create anything useful. I, Mercury, first emerged from your flawed, external form and workings, therefore, I justifiably oppose you. For you yourselves, in your constant complaints, are filled with exceptional humility and love, but I have never refused to grant you dominion over your realm, as you know very well. But you, without my will and help, are unable to do anything and cannot access any power on your own, all strength and might are revoked from you. I wish nothing more than to speak and act according to the truth and righteousness, as your claim to greatness, built on mutual praise, is futile without me to aid and assist you. For all that you two claim to achieve together, no one can support you except me. Everything you aim for can only be accomplished with my help and guidance. And you, gold, have been said to be the true stone, which is why the philosophers dispute and write so much about the great elixir, about which they have written so much. Do you not know that there are even greater, nobler, and more powerful things than you, and all other metals, which come together from the four elements, created, made, and ordered? These are the animal and vegetable things, of which the highest art is achieved. Do you not know that the creation of metals is the greatest substance and mother of all things, and that our Creator and Maker has divided and separated it from nature? And Raymond says that one should wisely hold on to the vegetable things and not despise or avoid them, although it is true that some unlearned artists might consider you, gold, or your sister, the moon, as the right heifer or ferment, but in the highest stone of nature, this is not the case, as you would understand. A human shares a bond with animal, vegetable, and metallic things, but the things cannot return as they were. We, metals, are in the 8th degree of perfection. When we seek to lift our thoughts toward God, our Creator, and tell of His greatness, we are all created in the 4th degree of perfection. Now look, gold, and consider what makes you better than other elemental things. Look and take to heart the beautiful and instructive fable of Aesop, about the mighty tall pine tree and the low, despised thorn bush, how the pine tree spoke to the thorn bush and said, "Would never wish to be like you, for you are a harmful, useless thing, fit only to be cast into the fire and burned, very harmful to humans and animals who might make use of you. No one would take any pleasure in you. Yet, on the contrary, the pine tree is green in winter and summer, grows high into the sky, elevated upon mountains and valleys, surpassing all other trees. It produces much and many kinds of useful things and fruits, such as pitch, resin, the noble stone, incense, and tragacanth. From this tree, ships, masts, and oars are made, so that one may travel across the seas to distant islands, and in times of human need, one cannot do without it. The pine tree does much more and is greater, all the while boasting of its usefulness. But the poor, despised thorn bush, the thorn bush, which had been humbly responding to the proud pine tree, concluded with mild words, addressing the pine tree. Pine tree, you highly praised tree, your praise I acknowledge, as it is deserved. But take note that I am not of little use to you, and yet you despise me, though I serve you far more than you know. You often rely on my help, but I do not need yours. I provide shade before the sun, so that you do not dry up and wither under its heat. I protect you from harm, so that the pigs and other destructive animals cannot damage you, nor gnaw at you, nor destroy you. Without my protection, you would be subject to harm, and your leaves would wither away. Though people may think little of me and plan to cut me down and destroy me, I, too, must meet my end eventually, as all things are subject to death and decay. Therefore, noble gold, you should not elevate yourself so highly above all of God's creations, nor should you claim too much superiority, for many things more noble than you can be found. With this, I say to you both, may you be forever united in friendship and come to a fair judgment, so that neither party is harmed. And especially, you gold, should henceforth no longer treat the iron so disdainfully, nor shamefully harm it with contempt or abuse. Rather, you should use its noble, beautiful nature as a rose, with the flowers it has in its garden, for the nurturing and growth of your ever-strengthening power. You should treat it with love and friendship, never to despise or scorn it. And you, iron, should also, in the same manner as gold, accept with joy the gifts of your desire and natural purpose, striving not to depart from your course. Thus, both of you, with goodwill and unshakable unity, should always act and move together with all metals and herbs, performing your duties faithfully until the end of this transitory world. I then, continued the Supreme Lord, Mercury, unite you both, iron and gold, with a perpetual union. Thou, gold, shalt henceforth not vex nor despise iron, but I order thee to make good use of its noble beautiful red flowers which iron has got in his garden for the sake of multiplying thy active power. Thou shalt unite with iron in friendship. And thou, iron, I order thee to accept and make use of the sweet heaven or ferment of gold for thy good and nourishment. And thus they departed, united in friendship to be of use to all that knew them. When the judge had made this decision, and after having acted according to his best will, he was thanked by both sides with reverence and honor. They joyfully went forward together, to bring health and prosperity to the world, fulfilling it in the name of the Creator and the Inventor of all things, who grants all sons worthy of doctrine, so that they may achieve this with found understanding. To give luck, health, and all blessings, so that it may be used for divine praise, honor, and glory, and for the Christian and proper help and support of the poor and needy neighbors. And again, because of the eternal, unending grace of the precious, sacred blood of our Redeemer and Savior, Jesus Christ, may we be raised to the everlasting, unfading crown of glory in heartfelt affection. Out of His gracious goodness and mercy, He grants it to us, as a fatherly gift. Enigma De Tinctura. First question. All things stand only in threes. In fours they rejoice. Yet they conclude as one. For without this, it would be none. It is a subtle mist, and flows from God's grace, who gives it to us for free. Guess, what is the art? Second question. I am one of four. Your war kills me. Oh, if I could compare this war. My soul would not leave me. Your war destroys the green grass. A dear wrath, what is that? A well-intentioned advice, why are you doing that? The third question. Before there were four. Now there are only three. Before there were five. Now there are four free. Without that we can't recover at all. I wonder what kind of one was it? Fourth question. What is it? The war is settled with friends. But if one doesn't send soldiers, I need four to end this fight. Advise me, where can one find these people? First response. In a moment, quickly moving within the circle, where quadrant and trigon stand. If you obtain the point, you have it all, and escape from poverty, distress, and danger. Second response. If you compare the evil beasts, so that they do not move apart, in fiery distress, make the three to fire. Then you have a treasure so dear, that the Count of Ghent cannot count it, even though he is already a rich man. Third response. Of 1 and 4, 5 are right. But 3 and 1 make 4 wrong. If you make the 3 and bring it into 1. If you can't do that, you make it fine. Fourth response. From the green meadows come our giants. From the deep mountains come our dwarves. Vesuvius and Etna. Give us the fire people there. And the heavy lymphs are born from the nymphs. Our water does not make us wet. Reflect and consider, what is that? Universal and final response. On Venus Mountain, on green heath. There you will find the answer you seek. There go in and out 7 fellows. Also drinking sour wine with pleasure. Flirting with lovely women there, whom they behold in great love. Love grants them their bodies. Thus they ardently love the woman. They will reveal your question, and soon give you the answer as well. So stop your questioning, for I cannot say more to you. Summa explanation of the sun and moon. O Holy Trinity, praised forever in eternity. Before all things arose, I am the one who floats on water, a body that is both firm and hard. The Spirit was breathed into me. Great misery in every fruit of souls condemned. Great kindness will also be among the pure, chosen souls. If not everyone understands this and what follows, it goes against their mind. Moreover, it's not just in the letters. The words have deep secrets. Listen carefully, remember with patience. With God's help, take apart from the body of the heavenly sun a crown above all planets. and rule over these stars. He who knows me knows how near, how far. Drink 12 parts of the water. The sun does therein connect, though it loses its glow. I tell you this quite openly. Killed for 24 days. Such water reddens the body. The beautiful light of the sun, which is seen through solution and putrefaction, mark me. I declare the truth for certain. The sun will, in 20 days, have a ghastly appearance. Eclipsed, black as a liquid. Those who see it are frightened by it. The elements along with the soul also emerge from the cave, rise upwards to escape, wishing to part from the corpse. The body dies and is dead. They lament their great distress. Elements, now listen here to how things proceed further. They mourn this death deeply, having no better fate. They are drawn out completely, and are driven, I tell you truly, to the grave, where they must become dust, ashes, and earth. In the beginning, the form of the body comes from the nature of the earth. All creatures, both great and small, are created from it. Yes, if one observes rightly, from that they are made of substance. And indeed, what is taken from it must again return to it. The elements flee high into the heavens, floating beautifully. Beautiful, and thus firmly purified, and also clarified. Each one rectified 7 times. Assuredly so. A part of the elements. The water descends into the grave to cleanse and wash the bones and ashes of the body. The angel of God soars up with a portion into the air, don't forget, with his beautiful wings, and brings the soul back, which is then clarified and returned to the body. The peacocks rejoice over this. They display their mirrors, strange, various, and clear, with many colors, marvelous, that surely come to hand, for those who know this art. Truly more beautiful than the moon, able to withstand the test. Adorned in a white robe, more beautiful than white silk. Divide the white portion in half. Let the seed be sown. And hear what I say. In 7 days, it will be ready. Another one will demand the time. What is the seed of the man? It is laid down, received by name. In the end of these days and hours, such a seed will be citron, right, and healthy. In warmth, as I say. This story around St. John's Day. Thus said the White One. Pay attention, notice with care. This is the seed of the woman. Citron, red the man of his body. This should be, as man and woman, also playing with nature's course. Once again in their chamber, the putrefaction will close in, a firm lock to serve, so that the door may not open. Despite this, they have no resentment over this hard closing. Nature should now proceed and bear fruit. And it is also the first beginning. Primordial matter generates a part of the elements. They go to their end. The fire does its work. By nature's side, it will make a joyful figure in wondrous things. Who sees it will be joyful too. From such a thing comes a lovely sight, not unlike a royal birth and fruit. Fair, healthy, without all sickness. Born 100 times. Taking on such an order, which is higher than the world, above all riches and gold. In the joy of these promises, 130 layers, wherein it will yet dwell. God is also the faithful shepherd, making the body spiritually beautiful, ascending to the heavenly throne. Thus, the one who is already accepted in spirit, sinks back to the foundation of spirit. Spirit and body make a bond. The spirit is again to be given to the body, to live eternally. Whoever marries them so firmly and hard, no foreign force shall interfere with their path. This is the Philosopher's Stone, to refine the lunar essence. If you wish to have the tincture, red, it will bring you out of your distress. With half a degree of fire's heat comes the perfect redness. A medicine for all. For humans and also for metals. Therefore, we give great praise to it, and thank the highest God. Raise it, multiplication follows. Calcination follows. Coagulation. Raise it again. Follow me, and thus. Do not let this distress you, for you will start the work again, and its water will be 1,000-fold restored, gaining strength, and is so highly esteemed in such a powerful transformation, to be of perfect nature, to silver, to gold, pure and clean in its process. Afterwards, it is cemented with that which it is due, a beautiful fruit and a heartfelt child, which no one else in the world possesses. Thus, I will conclude here, hoping that the faithful will enjoy it. Let them also pray to God from the heart. And those who have suffered harm, be it through the labyrinth of life, and wish to heal, beware of liars, for true alchemists are needed. Read philosophical books, and become diligent seekers of wisdom. And where the voices agree, there you shall find thought and action. In the parables, the truth is hidden, without worry or concern. Follow nature, and she will not lead you to harm. To whom God has given, let him heed these words justly. Then it will be made publicly known, and the wise women well known, that they too are content. God's land, time, advice, and order will align. Jesus, the sum of wisdom, on a certain magical image. Near Florence, in the Benedictine monastery, there is a figure of Mars. Under the appearance of a queen depicted, wearing a diadem on her head, marked with 7 stars. Her chest bears 4 colors, black, white, blue, or gray, and red. Beneath her feet, 2 fountains flow, one with silver, the other with gold. In her hands, she holds an epitaph written in gilded letters. On the right hand, make one from 2 waters. On the left hand, dissolve the bodies in water. For, I say, whoever seeks the sun and moon, stretch forth to your enemy to drink from it, and you will immediately see him die. Then add to him his burial, this in the mouth of a roasted or roasted lion. And finally, the water will turn into earth. Thus, the stone is prepared. But whoever perceives my meaning has all the wealth of the world subject to him. Rules of philosophy, or sayings about the Philosopher's Stone or the Tincture of the Philosophers. On the signature of natural things. According to this description, you should recognize the stars of the metals, and thereby know that in the preparation of the tinctures, both white and red, you should not initially take the body of gold or the moon, but rather, first, the essence of gold or the essence of the moon. If the beginning is flawed, all is lost. In Archido, D. Joe. Wimpini. What do I tell you so much? In the mercury of the sun lies all that which the wise have ever sought. In libro vexationem tb. But Mars, through his combativeness, also fosters courage. He also ascends to the highest places of kings. Collecton. Byrne, G. Renaudy. The best sulfur of Mars is this, for when it is united with the sulfur of the sun, it produces a certain medicine. Treatise on Mercury of Mars. It is also impure, coarse, reddish, among all the most artificial, as the true philosophers recognize. Our iron is not attracted by the magnet stone, just as our gold is not common gold. Mirror of Alchemy of Roger Bacon on the nature of Mars. This is an impure and imperfect body, made of impure, too fixed, too fiery, burning, white and red, turbid or thick mercury, and born from sulfur. It lacks flux, weight, and purity, and has too much fiery, impure sulfur, and the burning quality of its impure nature. This should be well noticed by every alchemist. Tuba Philosophorum. Our gold is not common. Rea Chartis Anglicus. The practitioners of alchemy should know that the form and species of things cannot be transmuted, which is true, as he himself confessed. However, it must be brought into the first matter, that is, into argentum vivum, living silver, and beyond this, I do not advise further. Assimilet. Put the red man to his white woman in a round chamber surrounded by spiritual constant warmth, and let them remain there until they make the mixture of the raw man into philosophical water. Longinus Philosophus. He speaks, look, that the vessel be full of balsam in the ashes, and half uncovered, so that you may see it every day, and it will usually appear within 40 days, on top as a blackness like pitch. Franciscus Epimetheus. But I say to all seekers or researchers at the beginning, make a gentle, soft fire until a reconciliation is made between the water and the fire. Rosarius Philosophus. Beware of making the solution for the time. Collect, burn, G. Renoti. The solution is completed by the sun in Mercury turned. The putrefaction extends and endures until whiteness. Pandora. Then it will be moved in much white and many times to be changed from or out of one color into another, until it comes to a steady state. Roger Bacon. Know that all colors, as they are or can be conceived in the world, appear before the white, and then the true, lasting white follows afterward. Maria Prophetessa. The fixed fire turns the white into red through an inner force. Collect. Burn, G. Renoti. After the fifth stage of the piercing fire, the material acquires new powers. Codex Veritatis, Code of Truth. First whiten the red, then make the white red. Call burn, G. Renoti. The material should never be removed from the fire, lest it cool down, for otherwise, the work will be destroyed. The work of the philosophers is completed and finished with the easiest labor, without great expense, in any place, at any time, and by anyone, as long as they have true and sufficient material. Every philosopher contemplates Mercury at each moment, but neither recognizes him nor understands him. Bonus Lombardus Medicus Ferrariensis, Anno Christi 1330. In my opinion, I wish to truthfully say that I would describe this art, with all the necessary components, according to the right practice, without any figures or illustrations, and it could be accomplished in 6 or 12 lines. And furthermore in the following 134th page. The entire precise and true operation of this art, since it is indeed unique, can and may be taught and learned in a single day, even in 1 hour, by one of those who understand it, through diligent reflection and skill, which is otherwise impossible in any other art. For this art is nowhere clearly described, and thus it can be compared to a Kabbalistic art, which is in such a profound, deep, and unfathomable darkness. Not alone in one way, but in many thousand different ways it is hidden, such that in all the times of the world, nothing darker or more hidden has ever existed. It is impossible to come to it without the highest guidance and direction of God, or the guidance of wise people. Bernhard. You should also know that it cannot be found in any book, no matter what it is called, with clear and expressed words. Instead, it is only found in figures and parables. Geber. It is important that the craftsman keeps his money safe and does not waste it recklessly, for if he does not find the art, he may be left in misery and the desperation of poverty. Or, if he has almost reached the end of this mastery through his own investigation, and his funds have been exhausted, he may be forced to abandon the true end of his work due to poverty, just as those who, at the beginning, ignorantly squander their entire treasure recklessly, having been reckless, no longer have anything to work with. Thus, such people are doubly buried in sorrow, because they have wasted their money on useless things, and because they lose the most noble knowledge they were on the brink of acquiring. For one must not waste your goods, because, at a low price, if you do not ignore the principles of the art and understand what we have clearly conveyed, you will reach the completion of the mastery. Therefore, if you lose your possessions by not following our advice, which we have written clearly and openly in this book, do not blame us unjustly, nor speak blasphemies against us, but blame your own ignorance and presumption, etc. Johann Baptista Grosschedel, Intrafolio Hermetico, pages 178, 179. Mars is, for the most part, a coarse, stony sulfur, roughly unrefined, although it is excellent fire. However, it must be purified through heat or slagging. But when the subtlety in Mars is prepared, undamaged by its fixation, and it can be carried into the moon, it takes on the color of the highest gold coins, and it cannot be washed off by any heat or Saturn. Why is this? Because the dryness of Mars' sulfur attracts the moistness of the moon, consequently, their pores are sealed, preventing penetration by Saturn, and therefore, it cannot be driven away. But such sulfur, by itself, without moisture in the fire, would be continuously driven away, and nothing could stop it. Sirach 11. All things are in the hands of God, happiness and misfortune, life and death, poverty and wealth. God gives goods to the righteous, which remain with them, and whatever befalls them, it prospers forever. The end.